Okay, well, it is 12 o'clock, so we are going to get started. So my name is Josh Walker. I am and I've got Christina Wiesman. She and I are the leaders of the American Foreign
Everybody.
Chamber. And so, yeah, say that again so they can see you.
Hello, everyone.
Okay, that's better. So we started this business leadership webinar series to help businesses understand all of the challenges and ways for businesses to navigate these rough waters. And there's still rough waters ahead, but we have experts out there that are willing to share their expertise and their time to help us understand how best to utilize the tools that are available. And so I encourage everyone, as you log in on the chat, if you have a question, please use the chat. Go ahead and just tell us what your business is, and we're going to get started. Maybe we can start real quick with just an update on some of the things that we've been doing. So Christina and I have been working hard on constantly updating resources. So if you go to our website, and I will pull that up right now. All right, here we go. How's that?
Better. Got it.
Okay, so you can see there's our information. Link to the Business Leadership Webinar Series. There's Governor Herbert's thing. This is all on the main page of the Chamber website. If you go to coronavirus right here, you can get a direct link to the webinar series. Coronavirus updates. We have all kinds of tools and information. So we encourage you to go to the Chamber website and look for all of these different tools that are available to your business. And so we're going to stop sharing now. That was fun. You guys can see my daughter and I are working on a fun little music parody about the coronavirus. So you might see that here soon. Anyway, we'd like to introduce Camille Pendleton. She is the director for the Business Resource Center over at UVU. And, sorry, not the Small Business Development Center.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
Peter J. just hopped on. He is over the Business Resource Center. And so we'll give him a chance to say a few words later on in the call. But Camille, if you want to take over, you've got a great presentation for us, and you can talk about the tools and resources available for the businesses.
Okay, great. Thank you. Hello, everyone. The Small Business Development Center, we've been in the state of Utah for 40 years. Our primary goal is to help business owners succeed. That's what we want to do. We've got about 14 centers throughout the state, but the one that I'm in charge of is to help business owners in Utah County and Wasatch County. So what I've done today is I've put together a presentation of the resources and links and a little description of the loans and financial aid available. If you've heard most of these, what I'm hoping you'll take out of this presentation is at least some links and some, as well as, the American Fork Chamber, places where you can keep abreast of changes. Because if there's something I've learned in the last 2 weeks, it's that these programs change and they change rapidly. So hopefully that rate of change is slowing down, but we'll see. So I'm going to share my screen now for this presentation.
Yeah, don't pull up my poem again.
All right. Are you seeing this
Yes.
presentation now? Great. So just start that slideshow. There we go. Okay. So what I want to talk today about is financial assistance available, trusted information sources, and beware of scams. Now, everybody kind of mentions beware of scams, and they usually mention it at the end. I want to change that to mention that at the beginning. So I have a business that I haven't really worked. It's just like a side business that I haven't really worked for 2 years. And within the first week, I got 2 texts from people saying, hey, I have investors that want to invest in your business. Mm-hmm. And then I got an email that said, we want to look at your business to invest in. So watch out, right? It could be scam central and come from different locations. So be very, very careful on what you do. So emails, texts, you're going to get offers that may look legitimate, people that or people will come and talk to you on webinars. And even lenders may offer some products that they're not authorized, like they don't have the SBA backing. And so maybe you think it's that $10,000 grant, but nobody, it's not. So you've got to just be careful of things, scams and mistakes as well, because sometimes, with all this fast information, people don't know. Okay, so let's talk about financial assistance. We're going to go over loans and grants, deferments, and taxes. So starting off, we've got really 4 areas that of major loans and grants. And I want to tell you about each of these. First off, I'm going to mention the bridge loan. Yes, the first round of the bridge loan through the state government, the Governor's Office of Economic Development, we call it GOED. GOED opened a bridge loan that people could apply for from $5,000 to $20,000. The application period closed last Friday at noon. However, they are going to open a second round in a few weeks. So just wanted to let you know that is, and they'll probably be the same requirements. So later on, I'll show you where you can link to see what the eligibility and what the details of the loan are. And then the EIDL loan, also known as the disaster loan, it's the same thing. There's a $10,000 advance that's a grant that's attached with this loan. That is coming from the SBA directly. So the way I've categorized these in my mind is who's offering the money, right? So the bridge loan came from the state of Utah, the Governor's Office of Economic Development. The disaster loan comes straight from the SBA and their funding sources. The payroll protection, that should say Paycheck protection. Paycheck protection program, that is coming from credit unions and banks, okay? So it is SBA guaranteed. The SBA is encouraging that, and but that's coming through the credit unions and the banks. And then the community development block grant potential for small business loans, that's going to be coming through cities and counties with revolving or business loan funds, or if they turn their grant money that they get from the federal government into economic loans, that may be, those may be available. So these are the main locations right now for money funding, okay? So let's talk about the bridge loan. Right here is the link. I think I just pretty much said all this. The interest rate is, the other thing that I do is I want to know what's the eligibility and what are the terms, right? How much interest, how fast do I have to pay it back? Are there any special conditions? So I always look for that. So this is what the bridge loan covered. It was up to $20,000, 0% interest for 60 months. First payment happens next year sometime, and up to 3 months of operating expenses. If I'm going to click here, this is the bridge loan. If it'll go, maybe it won't go on a presentation. Okay, there's the link right there. I'm going to have this PowerPoint. I've sent it to Josh, and so either Josh or Christina can send you this whole PowerPoint with the links embedded, with the links there. And I think I have freaked out my presentation. Hang on one second. Okay, can you see it?
Yep, it's back up.
Okay, awesome. So let's go back to, so there's the bridge loan. It'll be open again probably, but that window for application is again going to be very short. So watch for it and then jump on if that's going to be helpful to you. So here is the disaster loan. This was the first one that came out. Again, this is from the SBA, directly from the SBA, the Small Business Administration, which is a federal agency. And here are kind of the criteria. It's for businesses that have 500 employees or less. That includes independent contractors, sole proprietors. It's anybody there. They've got information at this link, and the application, the new and improved application, is at this link. As a matter of fact, if you, they say on there, it remains to be seen, that the loans will be funded within 60 days of approval. And so this is part of the funding that's there. The application is going to be open, they say, till December 30th. That being said, there is a finite amount of money available. So I would apply now because there's just there's only so much money that's available. So apply now would be good. Now, part of the grant part of the disaster loan or the EIDL loan is $10,000 for businesses, again, with 500 employees or less. And it also includes not-for-profits. The first $10,000, once you apply for the EIDL grant, the $10,000 will be put into your bank account. They say within 3 days of approval. Though Josh and I were talking, and I've heard of one business in California that's gotten that $10,000 in their bank account, and I think that's the only one we've seen. But this is the fast part of the disaster loan that can be dropped into your account if you use it, and it is a grant. So you can use this $10,000 for whatever you need to for your business, working capital, payroll, utilities. And so the information for this is at this link, and then the actual link for application is the exact same one as the EIDL or the disaster loan. So, but it should show up in your bank account sooner. All right, so here.
Let me just jump in. We've got a few questions coming in on that slide.
Yeah.
So we had Elvin ask, what if I applied about a week ago and haven't heard back? What's the experience been, or what are you hearing about feedback or timeliness of response?
Well, the one, you need to apply on the new link. So if you applied with either the paper form or the link before the 29th, you need to go reapply. If you have any questions, reapply. They should send you a we got your application, a thank you, we got your application email. And so if you haven't heard that, I would reapply if you haven't seen that come through. I don't think once you get the thank you for applying email, probably the next thing that you will know, next notification that you will have is $10,000 is in your bank account. That's pretty much where they're focused. And that's my understanding, as the next thing that you would know would be the money.
So the next question is from James. He said that when he applied for the disaster loan, it does not ask for a loan amount. It only shows the $10,000 grant. He said that he did use the new link, and it's only showing the $10,000 grant amount. It's not showing a space for applying for more than that amount. So any guidance on that?
I noticed that this morning when I was going through looking for changes, that they're really, really focused on the $10,000. It might be that they're moving more toward the Paycheck protection program through the banks to distribute the funds and putting the grants out through the SBA. I think the disaster loan has been absolutely overwhelmed. They've had disaster loans for forever when there's a hurricane or a tornado or, an area is flooded, but there's usually maybe, 4 or 5 or 6, maybe a couple hundred people apply for those disaster loans over the time. And they use that same link to apply for for people to apply now once, everybody was once a state was declared a disaster, you could apply as a business for the disaster loan, but they got overwhelmed. So people I know have applied for the disaster loan for money. I think it's up to $2 million you can apply for. But I have noticed as of today that they're really focused on the $10,000. So that's one of those evolving things. I'm not sure.
And that is a grant, right?
The $10,000 is
not something you have to pay back.
Correct.
Okay.
The disaster loan, anything over that $10,000 would be a loan from the SBA. But we're going to see what happens with that. So if you've already applied, I don't think they nullify your information, but still waiting to hear. So any other questions?
So you're recommending that, like Elvin, who applied over a week ago, that he should probably go on and reapply.
If he did not receive an email saying that his application was, accepted, or, they received it, I would reapply. Yeah, that's my information. Okay, so I put this slide in. It's pasted directly from the SBA website. This is as of this morning. And they say that, you know, that $10,000 will be in your bank account within 3 days of a successful application. But whatever a successful application means, you know, when it's approved. But that is what they're saying on the actual website as of this morning. Okay, let's talk about a pilot program that I think is brand new. Again, my guess is that banks and credit unions don't know how to administer this, but it is something in the works I wanted to let you know about. This is, again, through the SBA, from the SBA through banks and credit unions. So the money's coming from the banks and credit unions, but the SBA is insuring it. They're underwriting it. It's a disaster loan. It's supposed to be fast. $25,000 up to $25,000 from a lender with an SBA approved lender, and they could give $25,000, and then when the disaster loan funds arrive, then they would use this express loan to pay back some, $25,000 of the disaster loan. So this is in the works. I put the link there. So if anybody thinks that this would be something that would be very helpful for them, you can watch this. Talk to your banks and credit unions about it. See what they've heard about it. It is a pilot program, but I think it's the SBA is trying to get more money out there and more quickly. So, all right. So let's talk about the other one.
Let's
yes,
stay on that for a little bit more, cover a couple other questions.
Okay.
So Stacy's wondering, what are the business related qualifications required for the grant? Are there exceptions, aside from the under 500 employees?
Your business has to have suffered some economic injury because of the coronavirus, because of COVID-19.
And it's my understanding that they're really not diving deep into how that's affected you. It's just you're saying yes, and
yeah,
they probably think that that's true.
Yeah, the application is not, pages and pages and pages and pages. So right now, that's pretty much what it is. If they come back and audit, it's always a good idea when taking money, especially from the government, to have some documentation, right? Show your revenues from the previous year, same time period, or the last 2 months. Show your payroll, have those things in place, get those spreadsheets up to date, your historical financials, and keep them in a place where if you're asked in 2 years or 3 years or next year to show those, that you've got them. But right now they're mostly trying to get money to people, to business owners. So was there another question?
So yeah, we were talking about this morning. Are there any things that would disqualify you from the grant, or would change that grant from being a grant into now it's a loan that you have to pay back?
For this $10,000, the disaster loan, my understanding is no.
Okay.
As long as
just a grant.
It's just a grant. Yep. If this link, this EIDL information link, if you click there, and that's the most information, pretty much, that the most current information on the SBA site. If it didn't crash my presentation, we'd go there right now. But that's why I've put that link in there so that you can go directly to the SBA, because there's people are just talking about what they know, and yet it changes. So sometimes you hear things. I heard a couple of things on last week on some webinars, and they were 80% true, right? But then that extra 20%, it was just a misunderstanding, or they'd heard something. So it behooves everybody to double check from the SBA website. And there's another location, the rapid response team through the state of Utah in partnership with SBA, they're giving correct information as well. And so I have that link and that phone number. Though if you call the phone number, they refer you to email your question. that's another place where you can get solid, clear, correct information. So straight from the SBA is a great place to go. Even the banks are trying to figure it out, right? So you might want to start with the SBA and then double check with the bank. So here's, we talked about the Express Bridge loan, that pilot, that brand new thing that they're working on. Now let's talk about Paycheck Protection Program. Businesses of 500 employees or less. And if you have more than 500 employees, depending on the SBA small business guidelines, you still might qualify. And I have that link a little later on. The requirement here is that you've been in business since February 15th. So you have to be in business since February 15th. For the GoEd Bridge loan, you had to be in business before January 1st. But for the Payroll Protection Program, it's February 15th. And then the amount that is available to you is 2.5 times the monthly payroll. And monthly payroll and expenses. So your mortgage, your utilities, or mortgage interest, I should say, not mortgage interest, utilities, or rent, those can all be in with that 2.5 times monthly expenses, so those are the 4 things that you can use to determine that. You can apply up until June 30th for this for now, and it did open on Friday. You do need to go through an SBA lender. Now, the grant portion of the Paycheck Protection Program is that the SBA will forgive some of these loans for that 2 months, that 8 weeks, if you use it for those 4, the payroll, rent, mortgage, interest, and utilities. So
James has a question. Figured we'd let you answer this. So can an independent contractor who has a business LLC and is being paid as a pass-through apply for the Paycheck Protection Program?
Yeah, so an independent contractors can apply. You just need to show that, and there will be a grant for that 8 weeks if it's on those four things: the payroll, cost, and interest on mortgages, rent, and utilities. For independent contractors, what I've seen out there is that whatever your net profit is, they're going to determine that to be your wage, your take-home wage. So after you go through and take out all of your expenses, both fixed and variable expenses, then that wage is what you can apply for as your paycheck, if you will. So that is capped at $100,000 per year. So they'll take that over 12 months. Say you only are showing a net profit from January and February, they will annualize that to 12 months, and then if anything over $100,000 will not be eligible.
It was my understanding that for independent contractors in particular, they're probably not going to start processing those until this upcoming Friday. Have you heard anything about that?
I heard that mentioned as well. But all of the information that I've read says that a Paycheck Protection Program is for any business, which includes a sole proprietor or an independent contractor. I mean, an independent contractor is a sole proprietor, basically. So I think the difficulty is that the banks are, scrambling to put everything in place, and the credit unions, so that they have what they need for these loans. So these are 1% loans for 2 years, and there's the first 8 weeks worth that can become a grant if used correctly, which the SBA is going to pay the banks back for. But having it's kind of, this is really if you know SBA loans, it's a 7A modified, really, really modified, because you only get 2 years to pay it back, but the interest rate is 1%. So the other information that I've heard is that for the disaster loan and the Paycheck Protection Program, if you can separate the expenses that you pay for each of those loans, not necessarily the $10,000 grant, but for the loans themselves, you know, pay your mortgage interest and your payroll costs and your utilities from one of the loans, say the Paycheck Protection Program, and then use the disaster loan for other things. So if you can separate those specific expenses between the loans, then you have a much better possibility of having some of the money forgiven. If you kind of mix them all together, then that's going to be a problem, though that's the current information. It may change later. So
we do have a couple other questions that have come in. So we had somebody mention their specific bank, Chase Bank. Should he contact them for the idle loan?
No.
Or,
Those go right through the SBA.
Paycheck.
That goes straight from the SBA. It's a good question. Yep. You've got, and that's the challenging part, because the SBA approved lenders means that they're underwriting, they're insuring the loans, but the banks and the credit unions are making those loans. So for the idle or the disaster loan, that's straight from the SBA's coffers. So.
And then the Paycheck Protection has to be processed through the bank or credit union.
Right, through an approved lender. Yep. And that's, if you can, you know, if you think of the loan and you think, all right, where is this money coming from? It helps to clarify it a little bit. So let's go to the Paycheck Protection Program. This is just some other information, a little more clearly spelled out. It's requiring no collateral from the business owner. The SBA is insuring these loans at 100%. So traditional 7As will only be insured to the bank 75, sometimes 90%, but these are 100% guaranteed by SBA. There are no personal guarantees that are being requested, and there are no lender fees that are payable to the SBA. Now, the bank might have lender fees because it's their loan, but the SBA has waived all of the SBA fees. So here is an FAQ, frequently asked questions or frequently answered questions sheet. That's from that Utah Economic Response Task Force. It's a very good FAQ. I was hoping we could go there and look through it, but I'm going to recommend, if you have any questions about the Paycheck Protection, go to that form. And then the application paperwork for the SBA is right here at this link. And you can print that off and fill it out and take it to your lender. And if you don't have, if you're not working with an SBA approved lender, right here is a place to find close by lenders. So it's like a map you put in your what do you call it, zip code, and then they'll show you, in growing circles where the SBA approved lenders are. So I know Alta Bank is one. Chase is one, Central Bank is one, America First is a credit union. So you can look and see if who you're banking with currently is who you want to take that application to. Okay, so let's talk about Paycheck Protection Program versus the, that should be a different, versus the disaster loan, right? Okay, so this should be economic injury and disaster loan, not DIEL. Okay, so borrowers, you can borrow for both. For a while, you could only borrow one, but no, you can borrow both programs, both loans. You need to use the funds for separate purposes, which we kind of covered a little bit. And then the Paycheck Protection Loan needs to be used for paychecks and payroll. A minimum of 75% of the funds, which I think I think they might have changed to 25% of the funds. So we need to keep track of that one. And then it's eligible to be forgiven. Otherwise you need to pay it back. So you could borrow the disaster loan and pay for your, for your payroll out of the disaster loan. And still you could use the Paycheck Protection Program for other things. You just have to pay it back at that 1% interest rate. So. And then, yeah, document the uses of the funds appropriately. So make sure so that when we're audited down the road, we've got that clear. So city and county governments, possible funds that could be coming forth through those community development block grant repurposing. There are a few. I know Ogden has a loan and Salt Lake City has a loan that they're using from their specific city funds. Right now, the Utah Small Business Development Center, we have a resource that we're keeping for Utah. It's got state funds, federal funds, and local funds. As soon as we hear about them, we put them up on this particular website. I would recommend checking this one on a fairly regular basis and just seeing if there's anything that's come out. Though I'm sure the chamber here at American Fork will let you folks know right away when something shows up either out of Utah County or Mountain Land Association of Governments. But this website is going to be updated so that we know all the federal, state, and local resources available. So let's talk about deferments, unless there are any other questions. Are there questions?
Let's see
Okay,
here.
so let's talk.
Yeah, we had a question just come in. So
Yeah.
if I don't have payroll for my son and myself, but we have rent and AF utilities and fees through the city, should we only apply for one of them?
No, I would apply for both, because if you're paying yourselves out of the business, that's going to count as a paycheck. And that how they determine that, from what I've read, is they're going to look at your net profit, and your net profit becomes your paycheck. So, you know, up to $100,000 annually for a year, you will be eligible for that Paycheck Protection Program, where you used the money to pay yourselves, if that makes sense. So I would apply for both. So for deferments, talk to your lender. There are, you know, in this circumstance, I know that Alta Bank, I listened to a webinar, and they were talking about doing deferment, like loan payment deferment for commercial businesses for up to 6 months. You know, and that was a week and a half ago. So a lot of lenders are trying to figure out how they can help businesses and how they can preserve what's going on. So talk to your individual lender about a deferment. Now, a deferment is not, they're going to pay it for you. It just means they're going to put it off. So if you had a mortgage and you take a deferment for 6 months, you tack 6 months on to the end of that mortgage. But it does give you the ability to not pay any of your mortgage and mortgage interest for 6 months while, you know, we reestablish the economy. So talk to your lenders about deferments. Even utilities are talking about doing some deferments. So we'll see, talk to the folks you owe money to and get it in writing, get their agreements in writing, please, because that's always an excellent idea. You know, an email with their email address on it and of who you discussed it with is great. Don't always get something in writing, and keep these files in a secure location, whether you scan them and put them on your computer, or you have a paper file and an electronic file, which I always recommend. It's a little bit of extra administrative hassle, but you know what? If your computer gets hit by the ransom virus, if it goes down, and all, you know, and even cloud, even if you're holding things on the cloud, there is some percentage of files on the cloud that disappear. So being conservative, I recommend holding a paper file of the essential things. Just stash it in the back of the file cabinet somewhere. Okay, so the other thing that's happening is the SBA is providing debt relief. And this is what this means. And here's the link to it. Anybody who currently has an SBA-backed loan, that means a loan through a bank that the SBA is insuring, they are going to pay the principal, interest, and fees for 6 months. So that's all 7A loans, all 504 loans, and the micro loan, which the only micro loan in Utah is out of the, up in Salt Lake, the UMLF, Utah Micro Enterprise Loan Fund. That's the only SBA micro loan I know of in Utah. But they're making your payments for you for 6 months, and they're going to automatically pay the principal, interest, and fees for new 7A loans, 504 loans, and micro loans that are issued up until September 27th this year. So that is the SBA's debt relief programs. So let's talk about taxes, right? Because this is another arm of this. We have really three things. So payroll deferment, payroll tax deferment, and self-employment tax deferment, and then paid leave credits. So this is what we have. Here's the payroll tax credit. What's happening is that businesses are going to have let's see. And I just found this, I just put this in this morning. So my understanding is that the payroll tax is being waived it's being deferred for 2 years. I think what they've also done recently is they've given a credit for 50%. So payroll tax is what you pay to the IRS, right? It's usually 7.6% of whatever you're paying your employees. You don't have to pay that for the foreseeable future, up to $10,000 in wages. And here's the eligibility right here. So, you know, if the business is fully or partially suspended because of the government order, that qualifies you in the calendar quarter. And the employer's gross receipts are below 50% of the comparable quarters. That's another way to be eligible. And once the payroll receipt, once the gross receipts, so that's your revenue, goes above 80% of basically the same quarter last year, then you need to start paying payroll tax again. So, and that's for businesses with 100 employees or less. For businesses with more than 100 employees, there are also some tax relief for payroll tax, but you've got to go and kind of check that out at the IRS. Right here is, you'll find that information, and this is where the IRS is talking about the payroll tax deferment and or credit. All right, here's another thing from the IRS. The required paid leave, they're giving you credits for that. So at this FAQs, you're going to talk about paid sick leave. There's going to be refundable credit, paid family leave, refundable credit. There's going to be a payment potentially of sick and family leave. So if you've paid that out, the IRS might give you credit for that, either up to 100%, depending on you know the circumstances. So definitely take a look at what the IRS is offering for credits for small to medium-sized businesses. When you keep employees employed and pay their sick leave, they're giving you some relief with that. So the other thing that I wanted to, the other thing I need to mention on this slide, the payroll tax credit, is that the self-employment tax that you pay, that 15.35% of anything that you pull out of your business, if you're a sole proprietor or independent contractor, that is also being deferred and or waived. So that rolls under the same rules as the payroll tax credits. So for independent contractors and sole proprietors, you have some relief from paying that 15.35% for now, which is great, I think. And I think we all know that individual and business taxes are all put up, delayed until July 15th. So that's good. Oh, and I did want to mention, if you are applying for the bridge loan through Utah or the disaster loan through the SBA, or even the payroll, the Paycheck protection program, if you do not have your 2019 taxes created, excuse me, you can use 2018 taxes. They're allowing, and you might want to double check on this, but my understanding is if you don't have 2019 done, apply with 2018 for all of those loan programs. All right, let's talk about trusted information. So here are some places I recommend that you go for information now and in the future. The SBA Utah Rapid Response Team, they've basically the Rapid Response program that was started last year through a grant to get ready for a disaster. How convenient. Is turned on, and they're helping the SBA field all sorts of questions. So the SBA, we just have a small regional office here. They're great, but they're, small but mighty. And so the response team has come in with many, many volunteers. The SBA has trained them, and they're there to field questions, which is fabulous. So that's a good place to go to talk to them. They can only do super technical questions the SBA will need to respond to, but they will be able to more likely because the rapid response team is taking care of a lot of the questions. So the other place for trusted information, let's see. So here's the rapid response team. Here's their link. Here's the SBA's email. That's where you send the SBA questions. I would start with the rapid response team. There's their website. What you do is you click Federal Resources and submit inquiry. Here is that link right there, the Federal Resources one right there. So start here and then go to the SBA if it's more technical. That's how you get a hold of them. And then here's the Utah Small Business Development Center, utahsbdc.org. Here's that federal, state, and local resource website that we're keeping up to date. And also going around the SBA websites, they have a lot of pages on that website. So here are some that are directly, I love this website, this web page. I would love to click there, but I'm afraid it'll crash the program. This is a great link for SBA. It's got all 4 of the things that the SBA is doing. And then it takes you to the individual information for those sources. So use this if you need to go talk to or you want to read through the SBA. If you want to sign up for their newsletter, this is their link, and then they'll start emailing you. I've been getting some great emails whenever they update, so that newsletter is awesome. All right, and then here is that SBA approved lender list, credit unions and banks, right here to put in your zip code and find that SBA lender. I'll say it again, $2 trillion sounds like a lot of money, and wow, it is a lot of money, but it's not infinite. So if you feel like, I think my business is going to be severely impacted, or if you know your business is already severely impacted, either way, go to an SBA lender and start working on that paperwork. Get them what they need. And if in the end you don't need the loan, great. You don't have to take it. But I would work with a lender and get prepared to get these funds so that your business can thrive into the future, to the near future. And so beware of scams, educate yourself on the best financial assistance, and start applying for that financial assistance that's going to be best for you, and keep an eye on those trusted information sources so that you will know a scam when you see it. So, and that's what I had for today.
So that list of lenders, is that frequently updated? Because I know there are some banks and credit unions that are applying to be able to start processing those loans.
Yes, because this is at the SBA's site. And so my understanding is that as soon as a bank or credit union is approved, they will be able to be found on this map. Gotcha. So I also have a list of current SBA lenders, approved lenders, the existing ones, which I'd be happy to send to you, Josh, and then you could give it to whoever needs it. And as the new ones come on, I mean, if you are working with a lender who is not currently SBA approved, ask them if they're trying to get approval, because the SBA did say we're opening this up beyond our existing set of SBA lenders. Now, it'll probably take them a little bit longer to get approved than an existing one, but I think the SBA is trying to make that a very, very rapid process. So it should show up here, and you're right, the SBA is allowing other credit unions and banks to become approved.
So I think it's important to note, like on the Paycheck Protection program, if you're applying through a financial institution, you need to have an account with that financial institution for them to consider you for a loan. At least that's my understanding.
Yeah.
So even if that's setting up a small savings account, you're going to have to, if you want to go through Capital Community Bank or Central Bank or Alta Bank or any of the credit unions, you're going to want to say, you know, I want to work with America First Credit Union. Okay, well, go set up an account and then go through the process.
Yeah.
They're not going to process a loan if you don't have an account with them.
Now, the only exception to that might be Celtic Bank, because they do SBA loans without requiring a checking account. They're headquartered in Salt Lake, but that's the only exception to that I know of.
Okay. Kelly did ask a question just on taxes. So making sure you, even though it's been extended, the deadline to July 15th, you still do have to file taxes, right?
Yes, by the 15th. And probably for, the 1065 form is probably going to be due June 15th, like it is, for a month ahead of the tax deadline. So if you're a partnership or an LLC filing as a partnership, you're probably going to need to have that ready by June 15th and send that in.
All right. So we actually gave everyone the ability to unmute yourselves. If you have any additional questions you'd like to ask, you're welcome to unmute yourself and ask Camille. Real quick though, Peter, are you around? Are you on? We'll give him a minute to see if he can hop on and we can introduce Peter.
Says he's still there.
I don't know if he's, oh, there he is. Hey, Peter, hold on, let me unmute you. Well, you can, there you go. So Peter is the president of the the Business Resource Center. And Camille and Peter, can you kind of talk about how you work together? And aside from all this information about the financial tools that are available, what other tools can businesses use to help them get through this difficult time?
Well, I run the Business Resource Center, the building that the SBDC is housed in here. We have a lot of events and trainings here. The SBDC actually does most of them. Camille talked about what they do, and she also does one-on-one consulting with businesses, her and her counselors. We have a number of government agencies in the building, including one called PTAC that helps with government contracts and government grants. So they're available as well if you do contracts with government. But we have lots of classes, trainings, and other resources for businesses. Camille, you want to add more?
We work closely together, Peter and I. We're one of the agencies inside Utah's really clever Business Resource Center. They're throughout the state. They try and be a one-stop location for business owners to get the help that they need and connections and information. And so, yeah, we do some trainings and I know that Peter and I are working to put some of our trainings online to have that available in this time. We're not quite there yet, but I know we're working to do that. And hopefully in the coming week or two, we'll have that available.
Can you talk a little bit more about your mentor program? Do you have a mentor program for businesses?
So what the SBDC does is we have business advisors, business consultants who sit down one-to-one with business owners in a confidential setting. And we're basically your MBA, over your shoulder, or the person who can help you talk through and connect with resources and decide on plans and action plans. And we're kind of a sounding board and an advisor to say, yep, that makes sense. Or, hey, have you thought about this? And we help the Small Business Development Center. We're kind of mentors and advisors in that if you don't know how to do something, we'll either teach you how to do it or we'll get you connected with a resource that can do it. We try to be the 411 on information for business owners. Like, are they eligible for custom fit, where they can train, which is another great Utah program, so they can get money to train people in their businesses so they can, continue to be competitive.
And
things like that.
Let me hold you on right there. Let's bring Kelly on real quick. He's with Custom Fit, and he can talk a little bit about that as well. Kelly?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Oh, okay, good. So, yeah, Custom Fit program, for anybody who's not familiar with it, is a state economic development program that it wants to encourage you to invest in your business through improved training. And so any resource that costs money, we will help pay for, is the part that business owners tend to get the most excited about. We can also help you find those, although it's really easy when you can say, yes, there's a great resource for you right down in Orem here you should go see. But anyway, that's what we do.
Very good. Thanks, Kelly.
Hey, would you mind if I shared my screen just to show you the SBDC resource? Because we've got a lot of things in there. Is it okay if I could just do that really quickly?
Yeah, go ahead. I think that would be great.
Okay, so here is, right here is like the Utah, the bridge loan, that information. Here's a resource kit that's from the America's Small Business Development Center. So that's a nationwide resource kit. Here's all the SBA links that you can do. Here's a comparison guide for the loans, so you can compare one loan with another. Here's the CARES Act, the information from that, and you can go directly to that and see what's going on. IRS, what they're talking about. Here's our navigating legislation concerning COVID-19. Here's a microloan program, broadband access, some temporary free internet services. Here's Utah, in Utah, obviously, Salt Lake City's economic development, their emergency loan that they put together, the Ogden City one, and we expect to have like Mountainland Association of Governments here soon. So this is where you can really go to link into the critical information. And then this is where, you know, some information about what you can do to remain viable. So just wanted to let you know that that is kind of a nice place for people to find information.
Very good. So yeah, Nicole just asked a question. She missed the first half. So this video will be available on the American Fork Chamber YouTube channel. All of our videos that we've been doing are available on that right now. So it usually takes me about a day to get the video edited and up on to that YouTube channel. So yes, and if you want to send me your email, I'd be happy to email you out a link directly.
And how about all these useful links that
So we can send out, we'll send out to our email list the PowerPoint presentation that Camille shared. And then if you're not on our email list, please in the comment section, send us or put your email, or again, I'll just type our email right now and you can email us and request to get a copy of the PowerPoint presentation.
And we do have a link directly to the Small Business Development Center on our website too.
All right. Well, if that is all the questions, I think that is all we have for you, Camille and Peter. Thank you so much for joining us today. I do want to point out that we're doing these calls every Monday and Thursday. So our next call will be Thursday at noon. We have Austin Duke, who is with Edward Jones Financial. He will be talking about the investment puzzle, kind of navigating through the investment puzzle during this time. You know, the stock exchange has been a roller coaster. Today I heard that it's gone up quite a bit, but it's gone down quite a bit in the last couple of weeks as well. So how best to navigate your investment future or the puzzle that's really being created right now. Christina, do you have anything else to add?
Nope, I think that's it.
All right. Well, we'd like to thank everyone once again for joining us, Camille and Peter. Thank you for the resources you make available, Kelly as well with Custom Fit, and we hope everyone has a good day.
Yeah, thank you everybody for joining us.
Thank you.